Hi everybody, this is Sam from South Sound Green, and today we are going to be talking about chum salmon at McLane Creek. So we live in a really cool area where we get wild chum salmon returning to South Sound feeding waterways every year, usually from the beginning of November through early December. And some spots, like McLane Creek Nature Trail, is a great place for us to take students on field trips to see the salmon from a close but safe distance. And we weren't able to do that this year, so instead we had some virtual field trips and have put together some more resources for students to learn about chum salmon from home. So chum salmon are one of 5 types of Pacific salmon. They're also known as dog salmon. They tend to, this is the way they look when they are returning to spawn every year, and we'll get into how and why they look this way in a little bit. But they're a pretty unique species. Again, they are one of 5 types of Pacific salmon, and they are one of the larger species of salmon behind Chinook. And when they return to our South Sound waterways to spawn, they are between 3 and 5 years old, with an average weight of between 9 and 11 pounds, but they can get heavier than that, usually up to about 20 pounds. And when they're returning to places like McLane Creek, they are in the late stages of their life. So after swimming through the ocean and becoming adult salmon, they are migrating upriver into freshwater environments in order to spawn, which involves courtship, the actual act of spawning, and death from spawning. And all of these activities are taking place within the same creek over a really short period of time, and we were very fortunate this year to be able to see these processes all on display at McLane Creek. So these chum salmon are all anadromous, which means they start their lives in freshwater environments in creeks like McLane Creek. Then they travel out to the ocean or a saltwater environment where they live for most of their lives, and then they return back to freshwater environments to spawn. And so these chum salmon, which are going to be coming out of Puget Sound, actually end up swimming as far out as some of the Aleutian Islands off of the coast of Alaska, almost halfway to Japan over here. So these salmon are swimming pretty far away from McLane Creek. And then after about 3 to 5 years, they need to find their way back to McLane Creek. These salmon are going to be spawning in the exact creek that they were born in. And after swimming through the ocean for so long, they have a couple of ways that they can find their way back. So one is through geomagnetic clues, or sensing the Earth's magnetic field and understanding what direction they're swimming in from that. And another is sense of smell. So when these salmon are born in a specific creek, they remember the exact smell of that creek, so that even after swimming through the ocean for years, they can find their way back. So different salmon will use different parts of freshwater environments to return to and spawn. Chum salmon are unique in that they are actually not very good jumpers. They are fairly limited to the lower reaches of the rivers, so you won't find chum salmon really high up in the mountains like you might find some other species of salmon or similar trout species. And apart from the fact that these chum salmon are needing to work their way upstream to spawn, their body undergoes a lot of changes. And so one, you can see here, they actually change their appearance, and we'll get into how males and females look in a little bit. but they also are changing to devote all of their available energy towards swimming upstream and spawning. So that includes changing to not eat anymore once they enter freshwater environments, and also a reduction in their immune systems. So these salmon that are returning to freshwater environments are more susceptible to things like diseases, though it's not as important because after spawning, all of these salmon will die anyway. So here's an example of how chum salmon look once they re-enter freshwater environments. So males are on top. They tend to be a bit larger. They have a bit of a hump on their back, and they have these vertical or up and down black stripes, as opposed to females, which tend to be a little bit smaller and have this long horizontal black stripe along their backs. And sometimes you actually find males with a similar pattern to females. This is to potentially confuse other males and have them see these kind of disguised males as less of a threat. And as I just mentioned, the spawning of these chum salmon is actually the end of their lives. So regardless of if these salmon are able to spawn or not, all chum salmon, once they return to these freshwater environments, will die. And this is a little sad, but it's also really important for the environment. When these salmon die, their bodies are usually scattered around the creek bed, like you see here. And as they decompose or break down, they release a lot of really valuable marine-derived nutrients back into the environment. So nutrients that are usually only found in the ocean are now brought into this freshwater creek or river environment. And that can help everything from plants who grow along the banks of the creek to things like stream bugs, which may use those nutrients as a food source, and whose future generations of stream bugs may eventually be a food source for some young salmon. So these dead salmon carcasses are really important for the environment. So I went out to observe these chum salmon at McLane Creek, which you can kind of see where I was by this blue box up here. So back here, this is a watershed map of Thurston County. So these are areas where if any water falls on them, they'll all end up in the same place. So McLane Creek is over here in Eld Inlet, or the Eld watershed, and which means that all of the water in McLane Creek is going to be flowing out here through Mud Bay and then to Eld Inlet. And I was actually pretty close to where Mud Bay ends, and you can kind of see my view here of where I was at in McLane Creek. And while I was out there, I was able to observe some really cool salmon spawning activities. So there's a lot of different behaviors that these salmon perform that are both important for observing where they are in their spawning cycle, and really important for the salmon to be able to spawn. And so I've got a few videos here that I'm going to show you that each demonstrate some different chum salmon spawning activities that I was able to observe out at McLane Creek. So this first one is digging. So this is only done by females, and it's when a female salmon uses her tail to dig her redd or nest in the gravel. So female salmon do this by flapping their tail against the riverbed or creek bed, which lifts up some of the smaller sand and dirt particles in the bottom of the river and carries them downstream, leaving some of the larger gravel pieces behind. And this helps to create a better environment for the eventual salmon eggs that she will lay there. So in this video coming up, you'll be able to observe a female salmon in the process of digging her redd. next chum salmon spawning activity that I'm going to be pointing out is aggression. So aggression can be seen by males and females, though it's more common in males. And this is when salmon are going to be fighting with each other, either bumping each other, biting each other, pushing into each other. And for males, this is to fight off or chase off other males from a female that they would like to mate with. And female chum salmon can also show some aggression if they are defending a spawning territory or a place where they would like to dig a redd or are actively digging a redd. So in this video, you should be able to see some what appears to be male chum salmon aggressively fighting each other. We have a few more chum salmon spawning activities that we were able to see on video, though it's a little bit difficult to see. The first one is quivering. So this is when a male chum salmon right next to a female vibrates its body and kind of shakes in the water. And this is a way for the male to signal to the female that it is ready to spawn. And then another action that is a little tricky to see, but is present in this next video, is called crossover. It is similar to quivering in that it is a way for a male to signal that it is ready to spawn to a female, and it is when a male kind of swims back and forth over the top of a female. So see if you can observe that in this next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to see chum salmon in the future, we highly recommend you visit places like McLane Creek Nature Trail, as it is safe to do so. And hopefully we'll be able to run some more chum salmon field trips in person next November. If you would like to find more information about chum salmon, including our digital McLane Creek notebook and more videos, including those that I showed in this video of chum salmon, head over to southsoundgreen.org.